Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. Now, there's a lot of people trying to confuse you. I want to remind you that you should worship God alone and not be evil at all. Do not be evil. Do not try to accept both good and evil. Just do what is right. Hebrews 7. Melchizedek. The priest Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him, and Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Then also king of Salem means king of peace. So Melchizedek means king of righteousness, and the king of Salem means king of peace. And of course they do their occult wordplay game with the Salem witch hunts, right? Because, logic would tell you it was Satanists hunting people who they believed were too close to being right at times. And sometimes they're hunting Satanists because they like to do a kind of jigsaw puzzle. It's kind of like prison, right? In prison, historically, you find people who are really bad people and people who are really trying to do the right thing. And it's kind of all mixed in together. Okay. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Just think of how great he was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now the law requires the descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people, that is from their fellow Israelites, even though they are also descended from Abraham. Remember John 8, right? If you're the children of Abraham, you would do what he did. This man, however, did not trace his descent from Levi, yet he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. And without doubt the lesser is blessed by the greater. In the one case, the tenth is collected by people who die, but in the other case, by him who is declared to be living. One might even say that Levi, who collects the tenth, paid the tenth through Abraham. Because when Melchizedek met Abraham, Levi was still in the body of his ancestor. Jesus, like Melchizedek, is the next, saying. And I used to bring up, Psalms 106 something where I said, who can proclaim the mighty acts of God? And Isaiah says, who is like me? Who will you compare me to? So I said, I ask people quite often, what is Jesus like to you? Describe him. If you think you're in his spirit, describe those characteristics. And they can't tell me because they're not in his spirit. They tell me some kind of, propaganda answer, if anything. But that's not who I am. I'm not some fairy propaganda deity. I'm not I'm not in the spirit that you are in. You people are in the spirit of conformity, of kind of fairy psychology. You're not doing what's right. Okay. So Jesus like Melchizedek. If perfection could have been attained through the Levitical priesthood, and indeed the law given to the people established that people who established that priesthood, why was there still a need for another priest to come? One in the order of Melchizedek, not in the order of Aaron. For when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed also. Okay, so I have some problem with my notes here. Basically what it's saying that the order of Aaron wasn't good enough, and there was a need for a priest from Melchizedek to come. It says when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed also. Okay. So when you see in the New Testament it says the kingdom of heaven will be taken away from you and given to a people who perform its works. Okay, that's key here, right? So the kind of way of doing things, right? The tribe, the way of doing things changed. And the last change comes with me, right? Where even though when you look at the Bible, right, it's superimposed on reality, right? So the Jews were never chosen as a people. Like, people don't like to admit this, but it's obviously true, right? You can't do God justice and argue that the Jews were chosen. I mean, Adam Sandler is not related to some kind of ancient people that were doing miracles or something. That's all fairy tale stuff. They wrote that specifically to kind of make their people feel a certain way, and it's very selfish to do that, especially when you're telling the world your story. Okay, so the true chosen tribe okay, is in a sense it's the Igbos, but it's not quite that, right? It's a specific idea. It's a specific African gene expression that eventually made its way to the Igbo tribe, and nobody knows before that. Okay, so when you look at my family, you look at what resonated with my family, the exact characteristics they have. It's the ancient of days, if you will, an ancient kind of loyalty to God. But we really don't know what happened, say, 10,000 years ago. We don't know what happened 8,000 years ago to any kind of decent degree. So, but we do know this is an ancient African idea, and it goes way back, and people like me aren't formed in a few thousand years. You know, I come from a long, long, long line of people who are insisting on doing the right thing. Okay, so that's key there, where it says the law changes, or rather, not the law. The essence of the law remains the same, but the way of applying it, right? What should be done, the actions that are required. Now, righteousness, again, is the essence of the law. Obeying God, that stays the same. Okay, so part of the problem is it's written in a way that's confusing, and I don't feel a profound need to kind of play their puzzle game. So I'm just going to go ahead and skip ahead to verse 14. For it is clear that our Lord descended from Judah, and in regards to that tribe, Moses said nothing about priests, and what we have said is even more clear if another priest like Melchizedek appears. Okay, which is basically, it says Christ is a high priest of Melchizedek, so that's me. I'm Christ. I'm the high priest of Melchizedek, king of righteousness, king of peace, peace through righteousness, peace through obeying God through me. It goes on and on about obedience. One who has become a priest not on the basis of a regulation as to his ancestry, but on the basis of power, on the power of an indestructible life. So I don't think it's a coincidence they're making it hard for me to talk right now, because this part clearly points to me, and it makes it clear that they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, verse 16, write that down, Hebrews 7:16. Okay, so one who has become a priest not on the basis of a regulation as to his ancestry, not because of his heritage, but on the basis of the power of an indestructible life. And in this case, the two are the same, right? We don't see in the Jewish community, white community, we don't see anywhere else where somebody comes from a long line of righteous people and they're extremely determined to be righteous with this kind of martial art determination. That is what transcends. Martial is marital scrambled, right? Not scientist, okay, not craftsman, okay, not president, not politician, okay, in their own kind of wordplay, it points to me. And there's a reason why they hid it, because they knew that people should be following me and not them. Okay, so again, one has become a priest not on the basis of a regulation as to his ancestry, a rule or regulation, okay, but on the basis of the power of an indestructible life. And we see in other Paul's letters elsewhere, the kingdom of heaven is not a matter of talk, but of power. For it is declared, you are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. The former regulation is set aside because it was weak and useless. For the law made nothing perfect. And they're talking about the law in regards to the technical law, like don't eat shellfish or whatever they're talking about, right? And the exact way it was applied, right? They're talked about, we'll get to in the next chapter, which is very important, where they, sprinkle blood on things and so on and so forth. And that stuff is meaningless rituals. That's for people who aren't mature enough to make the distinction. So the Jews in the Old Testament are said to not be mature enough to make the distinction. And then when God talks to the whole world through the prophets, right, spreads the gospel, right, that they're supposed to be mature enough. But however, what they're saying here is not God's work, okay? God's work is righteousness and justice, universal pinpoint and moral precision. What they're talking about here is Babel and Bible. See how it's a pain in the ass to talk? Even if they weren't feeling me, I'd have to really think about it and explain, and I'm Christ himself, okay? So they want me to kind of go on, and you'd be like, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and say stupid-ass, conformist, weirdo shit like that, okay? When the bottom line is, I tell you what to do is just morally precise. The churches aren't telling you that. The other people who read the Bible aren't telling you that. I'm the only one telling you to be morally precise. Everyone else is telling you to conform by their actions especially. Okay, and it's clear. If you don't think that's the case, hey, make your case in the comments. We have no viable counter-argument. You're just cheating me out of my right to lead, and that's that. Okay. Where was I? Okay, for the former regulation is set aside because it was weak and useless, for the law made nothing perfect, and a better hope is introduced by which we draw near to God. Okay, a better hope, right? I'm the best hope, the top martial artist ever. Okay, the root and offspring of David, David versus Goliath, David versus Jebusites, and Amorites, and Philistines, rather. And it was not without an oath. Others became priests without any oath. But he became a priest with an oath when God said to him, the Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever. Because of this oath, Jesus has become the guarantor of a better covenant. Now there have been many of those priests since death, preventing them from continuing in office. But because Jesus lived forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he is able to save completely or forever those who come to God through him. because he always lives to intercede for them. Such a high priest truly meets our need, one who is holy, blameless, pure,